is one of the best at basketball videos. I use data to find the closest player to Stephen Curry in the entire NBA. Okay. Who do you think this is going to be? Who do you think this is going to be? I know you're probably thinking in your head, oh, Trae Young. He's the closest to Steph. Darius Garland. It might be Trae Young. I really can't think about nobody else that play like Steph. We about to find out though. Who is the closest player? Who you got, Diggy? Who is the closest player to Stephen Curry? Jordan Poole? Hey, it might be. It might be. We about to get into it. Let me do the intro. Bow, boy, where you been? It's TeeJay, the artist. You rock with me. You are the smartest, and we back with another video. Man, I use data to find the closest player to Stephen Curry in the entire NBA. Let's do it.
The top of your head, of all the active players currently in the NBA, who reminds you most of Steph Curry? I'm sure some of the names that come to mind are Trae Young, Tyrese Halliburton, Kyrie Irving.
Halliburton? Kyrie? Them names do not come up in our head.
Kevin Durant.
All right, Jimmy Hot Roller, you starting off bad. Ain't nobody ever say, yeah, Kevin Durant play like Steph Curry.
If he was 9 inches shorter, try all you want, but the overwhelming and correct answer is no one. Even as the catalyst to one of the biggest evolutions in basketball history, there is still nobody that is quite like Steph in the NBA today, or ever for that matter. The greatest shooter of all time by a country mile, as devastating off the ball as he is with it. The skills to carve up defenses and score from anywhere, despite being a relatively undersized, unathletic guard. By now, nearly a decade after the long ball took over the NBA, it was assumed that Steph's influence would spawn an entire generation of copycats. And although the game has changed, there's still no one that plays it the way he does.
That's a fact.
Aimlessly browsing through some stats not too long ago, it came to my attention that a 37-year-old Steph Curry once again led the NBA in three-point shooting last season for the 10th time in his career. The league is still trying to catch up to where Steph has been for.
Hey, shout out to Ryan Anderson for being on this list right here. Y'all see him down here at the bottom? That's Ryan Anderson right there. In 2011, 2012, Ryan Anderson, Orlando Magic. And Steph Curry, James Harden, Steph Curry, Clay, Steph Curry.
It's 10 years. And with each passing season, the reality becoming more painfully obvious that Steph isn't a product of the league's evolution. The league's evolution is a product of him. And as long as Steph can do things that no one else can do, it may be a while before we find a worthy successor. But why is that? In fact, with a game that is
I actually don't think I think the whole 3-point just throwing them hoes up, I think that might be going away, y'all.
Modern day guards, why has there not been a single player in the NBA who plays like him or can do the things he can do? This series of questions led me down a long and exhausting rabbit hole of what I believe to be the most extensive look into this topic. Who is the most similar player in the NBA today to Steph Curry?
Jordan Poole. I'm with that, Jordan Poole.
Today's Vikings cousin and you code G theaters and long range sharp. Code Jimmy High Roller only on DraftKings Sportsbook. How can you accurately compare anyone to one of the most unique players in basketball?
Okay.
Bang! Bang! When put to the task of finding the most similar player to Steph Curry, the first instinct would be maybe a long-range sharpshooter. But these comps never quite work. The best three-point shooters in recent history are far too one-dimensional on offense to be compared to Steph. Look for perimeter players that can generate offense like Steph, and you'll find a lot of freak athletes, ISO-heavy guards, and players who aren't willing to run to hell and back like he does every other possession to get a bucket. This 2020 Bleacher Report article cited Mark Price, Pete Maravich, Steve Nash, and Jerry West as the most comparable players to Steph. All of them solid comps if they hadn't retired decades ago. CraftedNBA.com has a great tool called Doppelgangers, which uses an extensive batch of metrics to find similar players throughout the NBA. But this tool specifically looks at the results of a player's game without including the method in which they got those results, which is an important distinction. For example, Steph and LeBron both averaged the same amount of points last season, but the way they scored those points were wildly different. In our experiment, the method is just as important as the results. And so I decided to take matters into my own hands. And after countless hours of research, metric-based analysis, and data crunching in an attempt to answer this question, I think I've got it. An almost definitive conclusion on the most similar player to Steph Curry in the NBA today. And the answer may surprise you.
Who is it? Is that Dame?
I had to reduce the entire league down to players who had even an ounce of
Is it Dame Lillard? I think that was Dame.
Resemblance.
I think the silhouette was Dame
to Steph and his game. Floor generals, undersized guards, sharpshooters, off-ball merchants, great scorers, crafty perimeter players, players who love the three ball, and because, why not, his own brother. Eventually, I was able to...
What if it's his brother? That'd be crazy. If he did all this research and it's like, what about the similar player is his brother?
To narrow the list of players included in this experiment to about 70.
Yo, Jones, what up?
5.
We trying to find who's the closest player to Steph Curry. And then we're going to get into all the other stuff after this.
Of those 75 players, here are the ones that eventually scored the highest in similarity to Steph. Now, how exactly did I quantify similarity throughout this process? Well, first I had to determine the metrics in which I wanted to measure. And here are those metrics: gravity, usage and creation, shot selection, portability, passing, defense, athleticism, dominance, shooting ability, and play style. 10 isolated metrics that factor in each and every aspect of Steph's game.
Who's this?
Finding the similarities between him and any other player was the easy part. For example, take passing, which can be measured fairly accurately with passer rating, a metric that measures how frequent, effective, and efficient a player passes the ball. Steph's career passer rating is 6.9. That's pretty good. Jalen Brunson has a passer rating of 7.13. That's even better. Klay Thompson has a passer rating of 3.4.
He don't pass like that.
That's not so good. To quantify just how similar these two players are to Steph in terms of passing, we just need to figure out how much their passer rating deviates from Steph's. In this case, Jalen Brunson's passer rating only deviates by 3.2%, while Klay Thompson's passer rating deviates by 49.5%. This would give Brunson a passing similarity score of 96.8% and Klay Thompson a similarity score of 50.5%.
So Klay not like Steph.
By using this method of measurement, I calculated the similarity score of every player in our experiment across all 10 previously mentioned categories. Then I tallied up their score to find the most similar player to Steph. The player with the highest score after evaluating all 10 categories is of course the player who shares the most in common with him. So now you know the method. Let's see the results.
All right.
Now, the first factor we're going to be taking a look at is Steph's most valuable skill, his shooting ability. In a game where deciding who is the best at anything can be a tall task,
who's the best at the shooting ability?
Any room for debate as the
Here we go again. Cheap followers on streamboo.com. Banned. Oh, stop. Y'all got to chill. Y'all really got to chill. Every time, every stream,
so valuable that he altered the course of basketball with it, and a skill
every
that we
stream.
Can measure
Somebody gotta come in here with the
quality metric. It's a stat that combines shooting percentages with spacing and shot value to find what they describe to be the most accurate shooters in the league on a scale from 1 to 100. For some perspective, no player in NBA history has ever scored a perfect 100 out of 100 in shooting quality for an entire season, except for Steph.
Really?
4 times. But throughout his career, Steph has maintained an average shooting quality of 94.6. And the most similar player to
Steph is insane, bro. Look at this, bro. Look at this, bro.
Who's done it 4 times. But throughout his career, Steph has maintained.
This man did a half post spin and fade
average shooting quality of 94.6. And the most similar player to him in the NBA today in terms of shooting ability is none other than his former Splash Bro, Klay Thompson, who has a career average shooting quality of 85.7 and a similarity score of 90.6%, followed closely by Desmond Bane, Peyton Pritchard, Buddy Hield, and Seth Curry. Keep in mind, although I will only be displaying the results of 20 to 30 players per category, each individual score is being factored in and will be revealed at the end. But just as important as Steph's ability to shoot the ball is where he's shooting the ball. 10 years ago, there were 3 players in the entire league who averaged at least 20 points per game with a 3-point attempt rate of at least 40%.
It's gonna be Dame, bro. I think it's gonna be Dame. I think Dame is gonna be the one that is similar to him.
A shot diet that was essentially prohibited unless you were an absolute flamethrower. But thanks to Steph, times have changed. Because last season, there were 24 players around the league who averaged at least 20 a game while attempting at least 40% of all of their shots from beyond the arc. Steph laying out the roadmap for modern day shooters, with about 15% of his shots consisting of layups, 21% of his shots in the mid-range, and over half of all of his shots throughout his career being 3-pointers. And the most similar player to Steph in the NBA today in terms of shot selection is Tyrese Halliburton, with shooting tendencies that virtually mirror Steph's.
Halliburton? Wow. I wasn't expecting Halliburton to be number one in anything. Wow, is Halliburton Steph Curry?
And a similarity score of 94%, followed by Anthony Simons, Jordan Poole, and Patty Mills. One thing I want to point out
what the Halliburton, bro,
compare well to Steph in this category. Guys who watch Steph at a young age and have skill sets that were more than likely influenced by Steph. Which brings up the next category and one of the most indicative measures of similarity from player to player. And that is play style. What role they play on offense, where they find the most value while they're on the court, and their habits both on and off the ball. Now, quantifying a player's play style is tough to do. What do you measure, and how do you measure it? Well, on craftednba.com, within each player's profile, there is a breakdown of their usage by play type. These plays range from ISO possessions, pick and roll as the ball handler and the roll man, the post, off-ball cuts, handoffs, screens, and spot up. These 8 play types are essentially the 8 major different roles a player can play on any given possession, and we can use them to get some insight into the habits, strengths, and weaknesses of each individual player. In the case of Steph, the 4 most revealing characteristics of his offensive game are ISO possessions, spot-up shooting, possessions coming off of screens, and pick and rolls as the ball handler. Now, if we take these 4 play types and search for the player with the most similar usage across all 4,
am I in the way of all this
that
stuff?
has the most similar play style to Steph is Devin Booker.
Devin Booker?
Eerily similar usage to Steph across these 4.
Bro. What? See, I'm also trying to look like at who keeps being on the top 5 and stuff, but everything keep changing. They're not gonna find somebody that's who's gonna be the closest.
Play types and easily the highest similarity score in this category.
So Devin Booker got a play style like Steph, according to these stats.
84.8%, despite not necessarily being a player you would associate with playing like Steph.
Right.
The next most similar players are Emmanuel Quickley, CJ McCollum, Jordan Clarkson, and Cam Thomas. For the most part, quick movement shooters who play below the rim and operate best in set actions as opposed to isolation. Play styles that are necessary thanks to our next category, athleticism. Unlike
he don't jump like that
from his era, Derrick Rose,
he ain't got no bounce. He ain't got no bounce.
Lack of world-class explosive
Steph ain't got no bounce.
Has kept his game for the most part on the ground and away from the basket. According to B-Spark, a metric that uses results from athletic tests such as the ones included in the NBA Combine to determine a player's speed, power, agility, reaction, and quickness, Steph ranks in the 28th percentile in terms of athleticism in the NBA, or at least he was at the time he was drafted. And in terms of athleticism, the most similar players to Steph in the NBA today are D'Angelo Russell and Jordan Poole, with nearly identical B-Spark ratings to Steph's and similarity scores of 99.9%.
That's almost 100% right there. Jordan Poole, he's the below the rim guys.
Followed by Peyton Pritchard, Luka Doncic, and Cade Cunningham. Now, our next category has been one of the more underrated aspects of Steph's game throughout his career, and that is his defense. Where his athleticism and size fall short, Steph makes up for it on the defensive end with elite IQ, quick hands, and adding over 20 pounds to his frame throughout his career. In fact, according to Crafted Defensive Plus Minus, an all-in-one advanced metric that measures how valuable a player is on defense, Steph is actually a net positive on the defensive end. Now, where Steph does struggle plus minus in
y'all see something? Defense crafted plus minus. Standardized. Darko. Standardized LeBron. Standardized drip. What does this mean? Y'all made a metric out of LeBron? What?
All-in-one advantage.
What? I'm confused now. They're measuring defense by LeBron James?
Advanced metric that measures how valuable a player is on defense, Steph is actually a net positive on the defensive end. Now, where Steph does struggle a bit is his defensive versatility, a target for switches and mismatches against larger guards and combo players, especially as the league continues to get bigger around the perimeter. Take these two metrics, crafted defensive plus minus and defensive versatility, and we can find out how valuable Steph is on defense and which player is most similar to him in this aspect, which in this case is Donovan Mitchell, with a similarity score of 96% on defense, followed by Kyrie Irving, Austin Reeves, and DeJounte Murray. But
I don't think I would want nobody to say that I play defense like Steph Curry, though. You know what I'm saying? I don't want that. Yeah, man, you play defense just like Steph.
Whatever Steph doesn't do on the defensive end, he makes up for tenfold as arguably the most valuable offensive player in the history of the league. With his usage and creation, Steph has spent his career as one of the largest offensive generators in the league, both carrying off.
Good catch. Good catch. Desmond Bane.
A valuable Steph.
And guess what team Desmond Bane on? Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic. Yeah, we got Steph Curry. What y'all talking about over there? We got Steph. Okay. Orlando Magic got Steph. You hear me?
Score of 96% on defense, followed by Kyrie.
There you go, right there again. We got Steph Curry, bro.
But whatever Steph doesn't do on the defensive
Orlando
end,
got Steph Curry, bro. What's up?
As arguably the most valuable offensive player in the history of the league, with his usage and creation, Steph has spent his career as one of the largest offensive generators in the league, both carrying offenses and playing within the offense. And to measure this, we can use three different metrics: box creation estimate, offensive load, and usage percentage.
Now let's see.
Most similar to Steph will undoubtedly have to be an ultra offensive engine who can create opportunities not just for himself, but for his team. So it should be no surprise that when it comes to usage and creation, it is James Harden.
James Harden
to Steph in the NBA today, with a similarity score of 98.
He didn't make the list this time, bro. Desmond Bane not on here. He didn't make the top 20 on this one. But that's probably because he was on a team with Ja Morant. So where's Ja? And Ja number 4. So if Ja Morant not on the floor, probably could be Desmond Bane.
0.9% and career metrics that are virtually identical to Steph's across the board. The next most similar players are Damian Lillard, LaMelo Ball, Ja Morant, and Cade Cunningham. Pair Steph's ability to create offense with his shooting, and you have a recipe for his game-breaking quality as a player. His gravity. It doesn't matter where he is or what he's doing. When Steph is on the court, he is a threat from anywhere at any time, disrupting defenses with and without the ball and forcing
he broke the internet.
Gravity.
He ain't just break CP3 right there. He broke the internet. When he did this move right here.
When Steph is on the court, he is a threat from anywhere at any time, disrupting defenses with and without the ball and forcing them to get sucked into his every movement.
Half court heaves at the end of the shot clock now are team stat and not player stats. so players won't just dribble the clock out when it's still time on the clock and stuff like that. They're gonna throw it up now, so we might see a bunch of those start going in because people gonna try it more. Get ready for that.
Hence the term gravity, or as
so that shot right there
describes
it account as a team stat.
Attention and resources a team uses trying to defend a player while on and off the ball. You can see it in action every time you watch him play, as defensive schemes completely fall apart trying to track him around the court, send double teams when he's 30 feet out, and at times completely neglect other players altogether when the Warriors are running options for Steph. It's easy to see, but tough to measure. However, B-Ball Index makes an attempt at quantifying a player's gravity by using a few different metrics.
He does a lot of research for these videos, man. Shout out to Jimmy High Roller.
And tracking data with their on-ball and off-ball gravity metrics. Stats that are rated according to percentile relative to the rest of the league, and where Steph has career averages in the 95th percentile in on-ball gravity and nearly the 100th percentile in...
This is gonna be somebody like when they on the court, everybody eyes on them. Anthony Edwards, probably even LeBron, Dame, yeah, Dame. I'm trying to think. I actually KD.
Off-ball gravity, making him not only one of the most lethal on-ball offensive threats in the league, but by far the most valuable off-ball threat in the league throughout his career. And among the players we are evaluating, the one with the most similar gravity to Steph is Damian Lillard, with a similarity score of 95.8%, followed by Kevin Durant, Tyler Hero, Cade Cunningham, and Devin Booker.
But wait, where's Desmond Bane? He's not on here again. Kyrie. Jordan Poole, Ant-Man, he over here.
Gravity holds a lot less
you got it.
If you aren't a great passer. As the defense collapses, how well can you find opportunities?
He's not really a passer like that. He can though.
Traditional point guard role throughout his career, Steph is an excellent passer.
Yeah, bro, you should have shut up, bro. You jinxed him, bro.
Out of double teams.
As soon as you said, "Oh, I see Desmond Bane," now we don't see him no more.
Passer rating. This metric.
I thought we had Steph Curry on the team. You messed it up for me, man. I thought we had Steph on the team. And this year I'm thinking about being a delusional Orlando Magic fan. I never been a delusional fan before. I was thinking about doing it, and that was going to be my thing if Desmond Bane is in here like that. But you messed it up. Now I can't be delusional this year.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
I need to be delusional.
10 being the best possible rating. Now,
this is football. This is football, but if Jacksonville beat the Bengals today, I'm being a delusional Jacksonville Jaguar. Okay? Let us beat them, and let us beat them good too. I'm gonna be delusional this year. You know, I don't never be delusional with nothing. You'll see when I start talking about these Gators in a minute. I'm never delusional. I deserve it. Listen, I never, for years, you know me, I'm never delusional about no sport. Let us beat the Bengals.
Throughout his career, Steph let us beat the Bengals.
I wasn't even delusional when we had Jalen Ramsey and all them boys, and we had to play up against Jackson in the Super Bowl. Not yet. I'm telling you. When we played when we had to play the Patriots in that playoffs, I wasn't even delusional then. Let us beat the Bengals today.
Of 6.9, and the player
let us beat the Bengals today
in this metric is Dennis Schroeder, who has a career
of
6.93 and a similarity score of
what? Dennis Schroeder got the passing of Steph Curry. Hold on, Dennis Schroeder. Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
99.
Dennis Schroeder.
The next most similar players are DeJounte Murray, Alex Caruso,
Dennis Schroeder is crazy,
and Damian Lillard. In this category, it's not the floor generals, but rather combo guards who are the most similar to Curry.
Dennis Schroeder is crazy.
All of these traits up, and you'll find why Steph is not just one of the most lethal offensive weapons of all time, but also one of the most portable. Steph has the skill set to
I just want to say something too.
All of these traits up, and you'll
Steph
find
Curry,
why
what
Steph
was you
is
thinking?
Not just one of the most lethal offensive weapons
when you went through
all
this
time,
little phase?
Also,
right here. What was this? What was Steph thinking when he went through this little phase right here, man? What was that? He just went through this phase real quick, like, you know what? I'm gonna put braids at the top of my head. Steph, what was you doing, bruh? Steph, come on, man. What was you thinking right there?
One of the most portable.
He cut it right off.
The skill set to thrive in
Dwayne Wade did that too right before he retired.
Any system around any players. It's one of the reasons why the Warriors have continued to find success throughout his career despite
Ellis,
an array of different players over time. Steph's value is virtually independent of his situation. And there's actually a metric that makes an attempt to measure this adaptability called portability. This metric collects data like passer rating, shooting ability, ball dominance, and usage, as well as defensive versatility, and calculates how portable a player is within any given system. In other words, how well would a player fit if you dropped him into a team with 14 random players? This metric also being on a scale.
Now this gonna be tough, because you can't just drop an NBA player on any team and they still be themselves. A lot of people ain't got that. It's gonna be a tough one.
From 1 to 10. Steph has a career portability rating of 9.18, one of the highest in NBA history. And the most similar player to Steph in this regard is Mike Conley, who has the exact
low-key
career portability rating as Steph, 9.18.
Desmond Bane, he's back. Diggy, he back. Desmond Bane. He's back, and he's number 2 this time. And he's number 2 this time. But Mike Conley, low-key. Listen, Mike Conley, low-key, he does play the exact same everywhere he goes. Give you the same production everywhere he goes. But that's a good pull right there.
100%.
That's a good pull right there.
Followed by Desmond Bane, Tyrese Halliburton, and Jalen Williams. Which brings up our last one, polarizing category: dominance. How good at basketball Steph is. A player can shoot like Steph,
dominance like Steph,
play the same position as him, but if they aren't dominating games like him, how similar to Steph Curry can they possibly be?
Who can dominate the game behind the three-point line like Steph Curry can?
And to measure dominance, instead of looking at accolades or accomplishments, we are going to look at purely how great they have been in their time in the NBA through the lens of an advanced metric, crafted plus minus. Now, this metric is an aggregate of 10 other advanced metrics. It's essentially an all-in-one of all the all-in-ones. It's just what we're looking for. And Steph's career crafted plus minus is 6.45, the 8th highest in NBA history. The closest player to Steph within our player pool in terms of dominance is Chris Paul.
Chris Paul?
With a career crafted plus minus of 6.59 and a similarity score of 98%.
Desmond Bane. Number 18, Desmond Bane. Let me find out we got Steph Curry on the team, bro. But Chris Paul, Chris Paul can dominate a game in his own little way.
Followed by James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Luka Doncic.
Okay.
And with that, we have now assessed
all right, here we go. Who is it?
Across all 10 categories.
Who is it?
A process of research and number crunching that took me far longer than I'm...
Who is the most similar guy to Steph Curry?
...willing to admit. But it was all worth it. Because in a league where Steph remains a unicorn, I think with very high accuracy, I have narrowed the search for the most Steph-like player down to 1. After scanning a field of 75 potential matches across 10 different categories and dozens of metrics, the most similar player
it's gonna be either it gotta be Desmond Bane
is Damian Lillard, which as a Blazers fan that watched this man for over a decade completely adds up. In the end, Dame finished with an average similarity score of 82.
Dame Dollar. It's not Desmond Bane.
0.71%.
Damian Lillard is the closest player to Steph Curry. We don't have, unfortunately, the Steph Curry.
Finishing just ahead of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant.
Dang it. So this is the top 4. Who number 5? Damian Lillard is the closest player to Steph Curry.
Names that make sense, but for completely different reasons. Although there is truly no one like Steph in the NBA, both past and present, Damian Lillard is about as close as you're gonna get on the stat sheet, the eye test, and
Desmond Dame.
and if you look at the results from this experiment, you can really get a full scope of all of these similarities, especially in gravity, passing, usage and creation, and shooting.
He got a lot of high scores over here.
Didn't score well in were dominance and play style, which makes sense. As great as Dame is, the peaks of Steph's career have been about as high as any player in NBA history. Steph has a sizable gap on everyone in the player pool in this department outside of Chris Paul, Harden, Durant, and Luka.
Desmond Bane right there at number 18.
Dame works in isolation much more than Steph does. Some of this can be attributed to Dame's superior athleticism. You'll never see Steph competing in a dunk contest, but as his career has progressed and his explosiveness has declined, their games have become more similar with time. Lillard now less reliant on his athleticism as his skill set has gotten deeper and his range much further. Dame also prefers to initiate offense through pick and rolls as opposed to Steph, who will initiate the offense but works more off the ball during these actions to get open for a shot later in possessions. Tendencies that bring out the biggest differences visibly when you watch them play. But outside of these few differences, their games are strikingly similar in comparison to other players around the league. When I saw the results of this experiment, I couldn't help but to think of one moment during the 2021 All-Star game, when Steph and Dame were going back and forth
with half-court shots.
If there is one man who can go blow for blow with the greatest shooter of all time from...
This was crazy. They was going back and forth. Wait, it is a cheat code to be that close to Steph's play style with that height is crazy. Bro, KD is a monster, bro. Nobody know how tall he is. And he could shoot the lights out and efficient. That man will have 100 points. But it'll be like 15 for 15 from 3. He be like, how did he, like what? He's very, very efficient.
Their games are strikingly similar,
but this right here
in comparison to other players.
The All-Star game is trash. Next 2K, hey, we gonna get in the lab for that one, bro.
Around the league. When I saw the
I played with my LeBron build, bro. Boy, that boy is he a monster, bro. We gonna talk about it. But anyway, this is crazy right here. The All-Star game is trash, by the way. They doing like 3 teams. And one of them gonna be the world team. We knew what they was setting up last year when they tried that. We knew what they was doing. We knew that Kenny Smith and Shaq and Chuck was not picking those teams. We know the NBA told them to do that because they wanted to see the world versus whatever. All-Star game this year gonna be trash again, but it's gonna be trash because they're making it trash. They're trying to force this world versus USA thing in these All-Star games. Now, people are going to get snubbed because they got to fit all those people on the world squads. People going to get snubbed just because they got to make a world team. Watch what I tell you, bro.
Results of this experiment.
But this was crazy right here.
I couldn't help but to think of...
They was going half-court shots during the All-Star game.
One moment during the 2021 All-Star game when Steph and Dame were going back and forth trading shots from half-court. If there's one man who can go blow for blow with the greatest shooter of all time from 40 feet out, it's Damian Lillard. A player who's hit so many clutch bombs, he has a celebration for it. And although one of Steph's superpowers is his off-ball brilliance, a clearer look into their similarities comes in moments when Steph really leans into his abilities to take players off the dribble and create his own shots. The key to their similarities being that
bring on basketball season.
They are both 2 of the greatest shooters of all time, but they aren't just shooters. They're offensive machines. Where most players who are capable of shooting at an ultra-elite level tend to neglect alternative scoring opportunities, Steph and Dame, although both being relatively undersized, are incredible at getting inside, collapsing defenses, and scoring around the rim, as well as creating open looks for their teammates. Very rarely...
Oh, wait, we're not going to see Dame this year. Oh, he went back to Portland too, but we're not going to see Dame this year. Achilles.
Do you get a player who is just as efficient and willing to score from inside 6 feet as he is from 26 feet? And almost never do you see a player that can do both at historic levels. I do think over the years, Steph has essentially market-corrected Lillard. Everything Dame can do outside of maybe ISO, Steph can do better. For years, I watched defenses break their brains trying to figure out how to stop a guy with a hair trigger and 35 feet of range. And I couldn't help but to notice there's only one other guy in the league that was capable of the same thing. Now, here are the full results from this experiment, with the 75 total players involved condensed to the 55 with the highest scores. And there's a few...
You see who had number 10? Desmond Bain. He was close, man. Where his brother at? Is his brother on this list? Yep. Seth Curry over here.
Interesting things going on here. First, the top 3 finishers are all guards from the same era as Steph. Lillard, Harden, and Kyrie. All products of their era.
And then KD was sitting up there at number 4, bro.
Even over younger players who shaped their game around Steph's. Kevin Durant, a 7-foot small forward, finished in 4th.
Kevin Durant is crazy.
The only 7-footer in the history of basketball that you could legitimately compare.
And he just called him 7 feet.
But some surprising names that finished high were Fred VanVleet, Emmanuel Quickley, and Desmond Bain, who all finished in the top 10 while sharing different things in common with Steph. I also want to point out that Seth Curry, the man's own brother, finished in 42nd. Among the younger guys in the league, it was Tyrese Halliburton who had the most in common with Steph, finishing in 5th, followed by LaMelo Ball, Cade Cunningham, and Anthony Edwards. For the most part, it is the highly skilled and versatile perimeter players that have the most in common with Steph, even if aesthetically they don't necessarily look similar on the court. Players who are great shooters, create a lot of offense, have high gravity both on and off the ball, are about average defensively, and aren't freak athletes. Regardless of the way it looks, there are many parallels in the games of the most elite guards around the league, and Kevin Durant. And it's their abilities that lead them to a style of play that is similar to Steph's in one way or another. So, there you have it. In case you were wondering who exactly is the most similar player to Steph Curry, the answer is Damian Lillard. But let me know what you think. Was the method used to determine our outcome effective, or are there other metrics out there that could lead us to a more accurate conclusion? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, until next time.
Another good one. Could you turn me up in the headphones a little bit?